Donald Judd wasn't just an artist, he was also an influential critic. He wrote a particularly important essay in 1965 called Specific Objects. In that essay, Judd described a recent tendency among artists to make objects that he said were neither painting nor sculpture. This tendency certainly applied to many artists working in the 1960s, but to no one more than Judd himself. This untitled stack from 1967 is the quintessential example of a specific object as Judd defined it. That's because it's engaged with the wall, like a painting, but it comes out into our three-dimensional space, like a sculpture. This is made out of galvanized iron and lacquer, the kind of lacquer that was used to paint cars at the time. So Judd, like many of his contemporaries, is using industrial materials that really have no history in sculpture. When you get up close and you look at this, you'll see this incredibly seductive sheen, and you may wonder how Judd made this. The answer is he didn't. He actually had this industrially fabricated at a metal fabrication shop in New Jersey. Judd did, in fact, start out making his own sculptural objects in the early 1960s, but he quickly became frustrated with the imprecise quality of those objects. So starting in 1964, he enlisted fabricators to make them all the more precise and uniform. This was very much in line with the desire of the minimalists to purge artistic subjectivity from the realm of sculpture, painting, and art making in general. Also, what it does is it takes the mark of the artist's hand, something that's been so fetishized over the course of art history, and it makes it invisible. But more than that, it makes it irrelevant. You'll notice that this stack is comprised of 9 identical boxes. Each one is 9 inches high, and the negative space between each box is also 9 inches. Also, the mathematical precision and rigor that we see here means that this stack could, in theory, be part of a larger mathematical system. It could be a fragment that hypothetically might be extended on into infinity. Judd did this because he wanted to sort of take the element of spontaneity out of artistic creativity. Instead, he comes up with a concept, a specific set of parameters, and what we have here is a discrete physical manifestation of that concept. As you look at Judd's stack, you can see that he's utilizing this form of serial repetition, the same thing over and over again. And this links Judd's work with many of the other minimalist artists. Think, for instance, of Warhol's famous silk screens of the Campbell's soup can, a commodity repeated over and over and over again. Someone like Judd is taking industrial materials and perhaps making us think of the realm of commodity production, the assembly line. Here, as I said, he uses galvanized iron, which is certainly a material that you might find in a factory. It's an industrial material that had no precedent within the history of sculpture. And then you'll see that the front side of each of these boxes is painted with this really luminous green lacquer. If you get up close, you'll see that there's this very seductive sheen on the surface. It's the kind of paint that at the time was used to paint automobiles, perhaps one of the most fetishized commodities in our culture then and today. As much as I think Judd would try and deny it because he was always so much about uniformity, control, precision, when you do get up close, you'll see a lot of variation among the surface. Paint seems thicker in some areas, thinner in others, and there's this very mottled surface as you see the iron peeking through the somewhat translucent sheen of the paint. So in that way, these are really visceral objects. They're not just mathematical, they're not just conceptual.